What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview. Every single week, we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses out there crushing it in this lifetime, right? So before we jump into today's interview, which you guys are going to tear up, you're going to love, it was an in-studio interview. But before we jump in there, got to plug the sponsors that make all this possible. First sponsor is our software company, www.perfectstormnow.com. It's by far the most affordable, effective front-end lead generation software out there. You need to have a website. You need to have a good branding website. We're in 2016, right? If you don't have a strong online presence, probably not going to survive much longer in this business. But you also need to learn how to go out there through your website and generate massive amounts of free leads and very low cost, high quality paid traffic. And that's exactly what this site does. We teach you how to go out there and fish for yourself, so you're not reliant on these third parties, right? So check us out, www.perfectstormnow.com. It's only $99 a month. Our next sponsor is our boot camp. That's where you really get a mentorship with me personally. For 12 weeks. We go through, it's a 90-day program. It's our 90-day mastery boot camp. We go through and build out your playbook. You get access to everything in my business, all the back ends, all the forms, all the scripts, all the emails, everything I do. Everything we do as far as a team, we show you and help you build out your playbook over this 12-week process. You also get daily access to me and my GSD support staff. So that is at www.90daymastery.com. Promo code Live Mastery, all caps, all one word, all together. That'll get you the whole entire program for only $997. There's nothing out there that compares. You can go pay any other coach that exists out there $20,000, and I can guarantee it won't compare to this program. So go check that out as well. All right, guys. So today we got an absolute massive guest on the show today that I'm really excited to deliver to you. I really, really enjoyed this interview. This is a guy I've known for a little while, been following him for a little while. He's only been in the business for 3 years, already doing over $40 million in production. The dude's an absolute rock star. So hopefully you enjoyed this interview with Alan Kushmakov, and we will see you on the interview. All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview. Every single week, we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses that are out there doing big things in this life, not choosing to live a life of mediocrity, but choosing to go out there and create an epic life. So, tell you guys, I got a studio, or a guest in the studio and the guest, a guest here in the studio I'm really excited to have. He's actually a real estate agent in the same market that I'm in. Actually just made a switch over to the same company that I'm with, the same brokerage. So, really stoked and honored to have Alan Kushmakov on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, no, this is awesome, dude. So this is the first time we actually met in person.
Yeah.
I heard a podcast that you were on a few weeks ago, and I was like, holy crap, dude. I doing this podcast, I don't get a chance to listen to a lot of podcasts, but when I do, man, listening to yours, it fired me the hell up. And I'm like, I got to get this guy on the show, right? One, because you're an amazing real estate agent. You've done some massive things. In 3 years, you've built a business that most agents can't do in a 30, 40-year career. You've got me a little nervous, dude, because I can see you within a year or two kicking my ass, which is putting a little pressure on me too to step up my game. But you attack this with an entrepreneur lens. So before we get in and talk about what you're doing today and what you built today, let's rewind the clocks, man. How did you get started in entrepreneurship in the beginning?
Well, entrepreneurship, I think, was always kind of in my blood. My dad, growing up back in Russia, former Soviet Union, he had his own little store, and almost kind of little quasi Home Depot, if you will, and he was a business owner. Even in those days, under communism and socialism, you couldn't really own a business, had his own little business. We moved to this country in 1990, actually on Christmas Day, and it was 5 of us, 2 of my siblings, my parents, and we moved to New York City. And living in a small town back in Russia into a large city like New York was a total change. It was an exciting time for me. I was 13 years old, went to school right away. It's kind of interesting, we moved, didn't speak any English at all. My mom, she was a teacher. She was teaching German language, so I only knew 2-3 words in English. My parents didn't know any English at all. In fact, when we got there to United States, right, we had only $560 on us. That's it. That's all they allowed us to exchange at that time, right? 1990. It was just, it was definitely a culture shock, man. It was tough. But you know what? From day one, I said, this is my home. This is my home country. I'm going to, I'm going to adapt and I'm going to make the best of it. So um, went to school. My first job, I remember I was standing outside of the shopping mall giving out flyers for like $1.50 an hour. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And the first 25 bucks I made, I went back home, gave it to my mom so she can go buy groceries. So from that period of on, I always worked. Even through college, I worked. My first job out of college, I was a corporate technical trainer. We were training a sales team of about 200 people on computers, on software packages, and hubs and routers and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of evolved. I got then hired by a software company out of New York City and did software consulting for about 6 years. Traveled quite a bit. And Arizona was actually one of my territories, and I really fell in love with the place. Just a great place. But the thing is, I'd never been here during the summer months.
Yeah.
So it was so it was kind of interesting, every time I was here during the winter months, meetings, conferences, playing golf and all of that. And got married in 2000, started thinking about family, and in 2002 we decided to make our journey this way. And it's interesting because when we arrived on May 1st of 2002, the temperatures outside was 105 degrees. So my wife looked at me cross-eyed. She's like, "What were you thinking?" I was like, "Well, every time I was here, it was during the winter months, not the summer months." So I remember we got into a cab, and they took us to Isles at Arrowhead, which is on 67th Avenue and 101. That was our apartment building we were renting for a short period of time. And our car did not arrive yet, right? So we had to schlep across the road to a Safeway store, 106 degrees outside. And we're going there. Going there was great. Going back with a bunch of shopping bags, I tell you, it was tough, and people were looking at us like we're like crazies, like who's walking in 105-degree weather with the shopping bags. But got into my first business, a luxury transportation business in 2003. My brother-in-law, who was working for a limo company here locally, said, "You know what, why don't we start something small and see if we can grow it?" So we started with 2 vehicles. In 2007, we had 24 vehicles in our fleet. We had over 40 employees, and we did over $1.6 million in revenue. Yeah. So in that 4-year period, if you will, 5-year period, I mean, we have grown quite a bit, and it was a lot of hard work. Like you like to say, a lot of hustle, just a lot of, just going out there and every day trying to get new accounts, talking to people, obviously, working with the drivers. It wasn't an easy business, but we done it okay. And then unfortunately, the bottom fell out in 2008, 2009, as you know. I mean, we had a major crash here real estate wise. A lot of my clients were in the real estate industry. We worked with some mortgage companies. We worked with a lot of successful real estate agents. Every time they would sell a house, they would refi it, whatever it was, they would call us for limo services. And unfortunately, that just kind of dried up in a very short period of time. 60% of my business, 70% of my business was retail, and that pretty much dried up. And so what I had to do is essentially, make some very hard choices. We had to let go some people. We had to sell some of our vehicles. In fact, most of our vehicles we had to sell. But the most important thing, I had to adapt and essentially become more of a corporate transportation company versus a retail or traditional, if you will. So I started just pounding the phones, contacting different corporations, large transportation companies out of the East Coast, and tried to get the business that way. So in 1 year, from 2008 to 2009, most of our business was corporate business. And that's how I was able to sustain and kind of grow this company since 2012. Okay. In 2012, I sold the company. And for about 6 or 7 months, I was just not really doing anything. I was just taking a sabbatical, doing my own things. Tried to take up some golf lessons. That didn't really work out. I'm not a really good golfer. It's just, I remember I had a conversation with my wife, I think over dinner, and was just kind of planning, thinking, what do I do next? What's my next step? And she was like, "Why don't you do real estate?" And I was like, real estate? It's like, my brother's been in real estate for like 10 years. My sister at one point, she was a realtor, a real estate agent. I know two of my friends are real estate agents. I mean, everybody's in real estate essentially at one point, were,
Yeah.
currently. So she's like, no, but you're gonna run it as a business, right? You're gonna run it as what you did with your transportation company, right? So I said, all right, let me try it out. So I went to school, got my license like in 2 months, and joined a company in the East Valley, actually in Tempe. I don't know if you know Kevin Kaufman,
Yeah. Yep.
Group 4610. Yeah, I know Kevin for quite some time, and he's actually was one of my mentors initially. And he recruited me, right? He's like, you got to join this brokerage. We're solid, this and that, which I did. It was a great time. For a few months after that, the drive was just too far from me. At that time, I was living up in Anthem. They were in Tempe. It was just going back and forth every day. It was just too much time. So I transitioned to a different brokerage. I don't know if I want to mention the name, but
Do you, dude?
they're a big company here in the Valley. Got over 5,000 agents, I believe.
Yep.
And started with them. So my first year in business, I did 16 transactions, and most of those transactions came from lead generating, calling expireds, calling canceled, calling for sale by owners. And the reason I kind of decided to take that path from day one is because A, I didn't have a big Rolodex, and B, I really didn't want people to know that I was in real estate. And the biggest reason for that is because I was afraid that I would fail. As you probably know, over 80% of real estate agents fail in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? And 90% in the first 3 years. That's pretty much in any other business as well, right? So I just really wanted to kind of try this, kind of be like a closet agent for the first 4 or 5 months, see how it goes. And if it goes well, then I will let people know, the friends and family members. So what I did from day one, I didn't really talk to my friends, didn't talk to my family about it. I just went out there and I just pounded the phone 6, 7, 8 hours a day and getting leads that way and getting my business that way. So that was my first year in business.
Yep. Love it, dude. So real quick, I got a question
Yeah.
though, just to kind of backtrack slightly.
Yeah.
You were in corporate sales in corporate America, and it sounds like you're doing really well for yourself. What was going on internally that made you decide to jump into entrepreneurship? Because that's massive risk. Because you probably had
It's huge.
benefits. You probably had all this setup over there.
I was making over $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
But I was on the road every week. We were selling high-end, software packages for Fortune 500 companies. I mean, each software license at that time, there were licenses, right? There was like $5,000, $5,500. So they were hiring me to actually do the consulting, doing all the customization for the products. Honestly, to be honest with you, I got burned out.
Yeah.
It was just too much on the road, and on a personal side, 9/11 happened, right? And my office was about a block and a half away from what used to be a World Trade Center. And at that time, I was not in the city. I was in Columbus, Ohio, doing a presentation for a nationwide insurance company. But my wife, she worked in the city. She was in Midtown. And a lot of friends worked in that area. After that, my perspective just changed. I started thinking more about the family, started thinking about, let's say we're going to have kids, how they're going to be, living in this type of environment. And I just said, you know what, maybe nothing against New York. Like my parents still live in New York. I mean, my family, my wife's side family, they still live in New York. We go there 3-4 times a year. But I just felt that New York was just not the most ideal place to have a family and to raise a family.
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was very difficult. I was making good money. I had a really nice apartment. But you know what? You got to move on. You have a chapter in your life. You need to close that chapter, and you got to go to the next one. And that's what I decided to do. Again, my brother-in-law was the one who's actually pushed me into the transportation business. And it's tough, man. I mean, it's. I remember my first year in that business, I was probably working 18 to 19 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop. Like transportation business, it's brutal. People talk about real estate, forget about it. I mean, The transportation business, you got to be on the phone with the drivers. You get phone calls from the clients. We work with the hotels. They would call you 11 o'clock at night to book pickups for like 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you're up at 11 o'clock at night because you're a dispatcher. And then you got to call those drivers, wake them up and tell them that, listen, you got to pick up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 4:30 in the morning. And then you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning, making sure they're there to pick up their passenger. So that was the case for the first year until I was able to afford the dispatcher.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Yeah, one of my favorite serial entrepreneurs that I like to study is Brian Blair. He's got this awesome book, Nothing, Lose Everything to Gain. He says, I always tell entrepreneurs, because people want to get in entrepreneurship because they can pick their hours. He's always like, yeah, you can pick your hours. You just got to pick and choose the 17 hours a day that you're going to work. It's how it goes.
It's the same thing with some of the agents, call me and they ask me, and I ask them, so why you decided to go into real estate? Why real estate? And they're like, well, I want flexibility. I want flexible hours. I was like, okay, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's how it rolls, man. So, okay, dude. So, and you've been, hustle's not a problem for you. You've been hustling since you were 13, right? I mean, you had to, right? To pay for groceries and make it and come into one of the most expensive cities on the planet with $500 in your pocket as a family. I mean, you had to start hustling at a young age. Yeah. So, there's a lot of reasons that you're very successful, but I'm sure a lot of it is your massive hardcore work ethic. So you do your 16, 17 deals your first year, and but you've only been doing this for a few years. Within the second year, you're one of the top agents of a company with 5,000 agents. It's not like you were this small brokerage at 100 agents and you were number one,
right?
Right? So what happened between year 1 and year 2 that just exploded your business?
So, for me, from day one, it's just really building on the success, right? I mean, in this business, you got to have some key pillars, if you will, right? For me, number one pillar was, all right, I'm going to be prospector from day one. I need to get listings, and I need to somehow, get the business that I need to get on a daily basis. So for me, it was just, again, pounding the phones, calling expireds, calling cancels, for sale by owners. That was my number one pillar, if you will, the key one. Number two, buyers, right? You got to work with the buyers. So for me, having a technology background, I was like, all right, I need to get an IDX platform, lead generating platform. I decided to go with Real Geeks. It wasn't, that expensive, other products, as they're pretty pricey. And I believe at the end of 2012, I got into that platform. By the end of 2013, which is about end of 2013 to end of 2000, beginning of, let me get that. From September of 2013, right, my first year in business, to end of 2014, all right, I spent $14,000 on Real Geeks in terms of the marketing. As far as the platform itself, it's not really that expensive.
It's like 160, 170 bucks. You're spending money on what, like Google pay-per-click?
Google pay-per-click advertising, right. So during that period of time, I generated over $140,000 in commissions. Wow. Okay. So that was for 1 year. So that worked. All right. So that was my second year in business. Half of most those transactions came from buyer leads or Real Geeks, right? It's kind of interesting because people sometimes kind of knock these platforms or Google PPC or Facebook advertising, thinking, there's really not that much business out there, or they're so saturated, you cannot do this, No, you can actually do pretty well. I mean, you got to work those leads. You got to consistently follow up. You got to have systems in place. And for me, number one thing I learned from day one is that not every single lead that you're going to call is going to be ready to buy or sell.
Yeah.
Right. That's the fallacy that we all have. I think it's like, oh, okay, great. This lead, they must be ready right now. Or if they're not ready, then forget about it. They're never going to be ready. No, it doesn't work that way. Most of the leads that we call, they're not ready to buy or they're not ready to sell. Overwhelming majority. The key is to consistently and systematically follow up with them, and making sure that you're in front of them. So this way, 2 months from now or 2 years from now, they're knowing your name and they're calling you back and saying, you know what, I want to buy with you or I want to sell with you. So for me, the second pillar was getting this lead generating side in place and start generating business that way.
Yeah, and then now today you have a pretty large team, and you guys are, I don't know the exact production that you're doing, but somewhere around 30 million or so a year, or and expanding very quickly. At what point do you transition in the team? Like, what was your first hire? What was going on at that point?
For me, I think from day one, I was always thinking about the team. My goal is essentially don't have my business solely depend on me or my production.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the goal from day one. But I also wanted to make sure that you know I don't hire a team or don't hire the agents where I'm not ready in terms of the leads, in terms of the systems, in terms of keeping them accountable. Um, Unfortunately, I made a mistake last year, beginning of last year, thinking that I was ready for getting a team, and I hired a couple of agents, and unfortunately, it didn't work out for different reasons. I didn't have the time because I was still in 100% production mode. I also didn't have the systems dialed in, didn't have the accountability piece. And to be honest with you, my training at that time was only like 4 or 5 days. Like seriously, I mean, it was like, okay, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you say. That was about it, right? And you're hiring somebody, and they're looking up to you, and you're like, okay, listen, but I'm busy, I got to do stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't really work out. So this time around, what I did is I put together the systems. I dialed in, the training. For instance, right now, when we hire somebody, they got to go through a 30-day training period, 30-day. And it's essentially from day one, how do you come to the office in terms of the dress code, all the way to how do you handle the leads? How often do you talk to those leads? What are your conversion rates supposed to be? All of that is discussed and trained during the 30-day process.
So they got 30 days to learn your playbook.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right. Because as you know, nothing against real estate schools, and they're all great, but they don't really teach you how to build business, how to generate business, how to become an entrepreneur. So that's what we do. So my second run around, if you will, I hired 5 agents. The first one I hired about 6 months ago, and I think she has about 8 or 9 deals right now in the escrow. And the 4 other agents came on board about 90 days ago. And one of them has, I believe, 4 or 5 deals in escrow. Another one has 3. Another one has 2. And the new one that I just hired recently, has 1 already in escrow. So it's really showing them, again, what you need to do as an agent every single day and how to generate business.
Yep.
Yep.
Love it, man. So describe like what it looks like for you today, because I know that you're still out there selling, but you're not working with buyers. You've got your buyers agents handling that. Like what's kind of a typical day or typical week look like for you today?
Well, in office usually by 7:15, and we're start making phone calls between 7:45 and 8 o'clock. That's me and my ISA, and we're just pounding the phones for 2.5, 3 hours. That's what I do usually. Calling expireds, calling cancels, calling for sale by owners. After that, I usually will huddle up with my team for about 15, 20 minutes. All of them are in my office every morning at 8 o'clock. Like all of the buyer's agents, they're there at 8 o'clock. From 8 o'clock to about 11:30, 12 o'clock, they're making their calls. They're prospecting, and they're also following up. That's what they're doing every single day. So we're going to have a huddle at around 11:30 or so. After that, I will probably take a quick lunch, come back, and usually my day after that is appointments with the sellers. If I don't have appointments with the sellers, I typically work on my business, and I usually leave the office around 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So what do you do in marketing wise that's killing it today? Because when I was listening to that podcast, it sounds like you're doing some direct mail, some geographical farming. I know you're going after expired, canceled. Are you still also doing a lot of Google pay-per-click? What's kind of your marketing plan of action and prospecting plan today?
Well, again, going back, we're still very much prospect driven. So the best return on our investment, Josh, is again, getting expireds and cancels and for sale by owners. So that's one of our biggest pillars. I mean, last year alone, GCI wise, I think outbound as well as inbound expireds, we probably did close to $200,000 in GCI. So that's one of our biggest pillars. The second one I would say right now is is farming. I farm a specific area in the Northwest Valley, Arrowhead Ranch, Arrowhead Lakes. I've been doing it for about a year now. And last year, I think I spent about $56,000 or $57,000. I made over $80,000 in GCI. So I have my own newspaper that goes out on a monthly basis called Arrowhead Ranch Real Estate News, as well as just postcards. So every time we list a house, it goes out to the Arrowhead Ranch, Arrowhead Lakes community. The same goes with the just solds. So we're seeing some really good results coming in the last 4 or 5 months. But we were pretty profitable last year as far as that goes. We're still doing quite a bit of Google pay-per-click advertising, a little bit of Facebook advertising. We use Commissions Inc. as our platform right now. Been using it for about a year. So getting good results on that as well. So those are the kind of 3 major ones. And then we're doing open houses. We do 3-4 open houses a week. My agents do them, and probably want to get some additional kind of traction on that. Maybe kind of have a conversation with you about.
Yeah, I love them, man.
Doing some interesting things with the open houses. But those are really kind of like 3-4 major pillars for us in terms of lead generation.
Yeah, and I love it, dude. Because I'll get so many agents that'll come to me like, okay, I want to go with Zillow, I want to go with Google Pay-per-click, I'm going after canceled, expired, FSBOs, I want to do this. And they have these like 12 things they want to do, and I'm like, when I meet uber successful agents like yourselves, it's like, hey, they've got 3 or 4 things that they just become brilliant at, that they execute on thousands and thousands of times. It's not that they're trying to do thousands of things.
I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, we get sometimes so preoccupied with these, in our industry, I think they're called shiny objects, or squirrels, if you will, chasing squirrels. That can leave you broke. I mean, that's not the way to do it. Like you said, you pick a pillar and you just perfect it. You dig deeper, and maximize the full potential of it, right? All of these pillars, if you will, lead generating avenues, they work. Expireds, calling expireds, they work. Farming, if you do it the right way, it works. The same goes with Google pay-per-click advertising, that works as well. But you got to almost kind of master each and every one of them. And then after you master them, then after that, you can transition and shift to a new pillar. And that can be Zillow, that can be Trulia, that can be whatever else you're going to be doing. But just don't go and start spending money on 11 or 12 or 13 different things, because that's going to leave you broke.
Yep. Hell yeah, man. So, leads very rarely are real estate agents' issue. I mean, they always think it's leads, but it's their inability to convert leads to appointments at a high level. That's the issue. And I know that you're diligent. You take a lot of frequency, a lot of follow-up, but I also know you're really diligent with your tracking. Give us an idea of what that looks like, so agents that are listening to this realize what does it take to really convert these?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, leads are not a problem for us. I mean, we have a lot of leads. The problem is actually consistently and systematically follow up and follow through with those leads, right? I mean, we have agents, and I had agents on my team that complain about the fact that, hey, we get leads, but they're not ready to buy, or, they're not answering their phone, or they're not responding. You're not just doing a good job of that. Like, we have a plan, right? We get a lead. Let's say we get a buyer lead. For the first 14 days, first 14 to 21 days, depending on their activity on our site, we follow up with them at least 2 times a day. Like, the first day is 3 times, morning, afternoon, evening, and that's phone call, email, as well as text. And if they're online, we do the online chat as well. All right. If we have their Facebook account, we're going to private message them as well. Okay. So that's going on for the first 14 to 21 days systematically, right? I tell this, and we joke during our team meetings with the agents, like, look, as long as they're not filing a restraining order against you, I don't give a shit what you do, right? I don't care. Like just make it happen, right? And again, the reality of the situation is not every one of those leads are going to be ready to buy now. It's not going to happen. But again, don't think for a second that you're the only one who's contacting them. There are other agents. They probably signed up on Zillow. They signed up on a couple other websites. Other agents calling them, emailing them, and you just got to be in front of them, right? You got to systematically do that, for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is it takes, until they tell you, listen, I'm not interested, or I bought a house, or whatever the reason is. So for us, that's critical. Like, I don't want my leads to be wasted because they're pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And from day one, we teach them, look, you got to consistently follow up with that lead, and we give them the tools to do it.
What happens if they're not following up? A lot of
We
team members have that issue.
shut off the leads.
Okay.
We shut off the leads. We also want to make sure that they don't have more than 100 leads in their database, right? So that's another thing. I work with some agents that said, look, I got 600, 700, 800 leads in my database. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's too much. Like, we have a quota of 100 leads, right? Let's say, for example, they got 15 to 20 A leads, hot leads. These are the people that looking to buy next 30 to 60 days, right? They have about 25 to 40 B leads. These are nurtures, we call them. They're ready to buy next 60 to 90 days, right? And then we got the C leads. All of those we call them watch. They can be up to 12 months, right? After that, if you're not in contact with that lead, if you cannot get through that lead, if for some reason you cannot reach out to that lead, we move them to our fish tank. So let other agents try to go call that lead, or our ISA contact that lead. Okay, so no more than 100 leads. And again, if they're not doing what we ask them to do, they're just not getting the leads.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Love it, man. So going back to you personally, what do you feel has been like the biggest challenge getting into real estate that you didn't foresee it being a challenge when you're going through your licensing process?
Oh, the biggest challenge, my gosh. I think the biggest thing is really the fact that it's a pure capitalism or capitalistic system. I mean, it's pure commission, right? I mean, you don't know if you're going to be able to make money next month, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no base salary, there's no base pay, there's nothing guaranteed, right? So really kind of going out there and doing this and not knowing if you're going to get paid, it's huge, especially if you have a family. I got a family, I have three beautiful kids, I got a mortgage, those are the type of things you got to think about. So that's the biggest one. I think the second would be the fact that a lot of agents get into this industry and they feel that they're going to have support, brokerage support, if you will. But that's not the case. I mean, brokerage is not really designed to kind of hold your hand every single day. And a lot of them feel lonely, right? I mean, you go in an office and there's really no one there, and you don't know what to do. You don't know how to generate business. You don't know, what to do every single day. And I think for me, especially in the beginning, not really knowing that that many people, or not really having that many mentors was a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. There's so much resistance for a lot of agents to join a team because, like, I don't want to give up that commission, but I don't think they really get that aspect of it. I think the team really evolved because teams filling the void that a brokerage used to fill.
Yeah.
Years and years and years ago. But the brokerages, I always tell agents, I'm always like, look, dude, agents don't want to pay a brokerage any money, so brokers can't afford to give that additional support, so.
Right. I mean, and again, they're not really designed or equipped to do that. Right. And that's one of the conversations that I have with anyone that is, joining my team, and they're comparing me to a brokerage. And I was like, I'm not a brokerage.
Right.
You're talking about apples and oranges here, right? We are a team, right? We make sure that you're trained. We make sure that you get the leads. We make sure we keep you accountable. We make sure that you're successful, right? For us, this is very important, right? We spend a lot of effort, a lot of resources on our end with a 30-day, training, program to make sure that after 30 days, you're ready to rock. Like, you're ready to go out there and close 4, 5, 6 deals a month, right? And most of the brokerages are not going to do that. They're not equipped to do that.
Yeah.
The second question, of course, is then the commission splits. It's like, oh, your commission splits are too high, or this and that. I was like, look, you can go get join a brokerage where it's 100%. But what is 100% of zero?
Right.
Zero. 100% of 20 is 20, right? If I can show you a path where you can consistently make 90, 100, 120, $130,000 a year over year. Don't have to worry about the marketing, don't have to worry about support.
Net in your pocket.
None of that, right? Net in your pocket. And on top of it, you're getting the mentoring, you're getting the coaching. I mean, what else do you need? Show me or give me any other industry out there where you can do what you're going to be doing and making over $100,000 a year over year.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
Yep. No, it's true, man. I do that in the hiring process too. When people start challenging me about commission splits, I'm like, pull out your last year's P&L, right? And then we'll compare it to my top 3 agents' P&Ls. And they'll be whooping your ass after split, after everything, right? So yeah, it's something they don't always grasp. But I hate the word failure because failures are our best learning experiences, right? Like, my biggest wish for most entrepreneurs is that they go out there and they fail fast, right? Yep. Not quitting, but just, that's what we learn from. What have been some of your biggest failures, or better put, what have been some of your biggest learning moments in this real estate industry that's helped define you to the successful entrepreneur that you are today?
Well, I mean, I think in anything, if you don't fail, I mean, I don't think you're trying too hard or you're not taking the risks, right? I think for me it was again starting too soon with the team concept.
Yeah.
Again, you don't realize how much time and effort it takes in terms of getting the people on board, training them, making sure that they're doing what you ask them to do. And again, if you don't have the systems dialed in, if you don't have the leads that coming on a consistent basis, and if you don't have the support in place, it drains you. It takes too much your time, and again, you're not producing on a high level that you want to produce. So that was the biggest thing, I think, for me, as far as that. And you know what, I learned from that. I said, what, I got to do it differently. I gotta again get the right support in place. I gotta get the systems in place. And so far so good. We'll see.
Yep. So what do you do personally to goal set, dude? Because we find that good is the worst enemy to greatness. Yeah. So it's so easy to get in this good enough. I mean, you're a dude right now that you're banking a bunch of cash, you're having massive success, more than most people are able to do in a 30, 40 year career. Like, you could probably start coasting right now and be pretty good for the rest of your life. Like, what keeps you just fired up, leveling up, and ensuring that you're growing?
Oh, my family, my kids, I mean, that's huge. I mean, look, I mean, money comes, money goes. Hopefully more comes than goes, right? But for me, I think that every day waking up and making sure that this day would be a better day than was yesterday, as far as setting up goals, every day before I go to sleep, I set certain goals for that particular day. That's very important to me. Set certain tasks for that day. I usually schedule 3 or 4 projects for that particular week that I need to, complete, that I need to accomplish, right? The major goals, I set them in the beginning of the year. In fact, we had a goal session with my team in the beginning, actually at the end of the year of December, where we just list all of our personal, professional, financial goals. And, I have it plastered on my wall, and I have it in my phone. Every day when I wake up, I go through those goals. It's huge for me. Making sure that I'm still, accomplishing what I set to accomplish in the beginning of the year.
Yep. Love it, dude. So do you have, because you're a dude, you got great energy, you're in good shape, man. So
not as good as your shape,
about that, dude. Do you have a daily routine that you follow that kind of puts you in the right state?
Yeah, I usually wake up like at around 5 o'clock in the morning. 5:15 in the morning. I'm up. I'll do a workout. I started doing P90X 3, which is like a 30-minute thing. At one point, I think 3-4 years ago, I lost like 40 pounds doing P90X. So that was 60 minutes. This time around, it's 30, which is great. I spend 10-15 minutes just going through affirmations, just going through all the things that, made me successful, made me blessed. Every day is a blessing. Waking up, seeing sky and sun, and seeing your family, your kids, it's a blessing, you know. So for me, just again, every day be grateful. You know, I'm super blessed with everything that I have, and just make the best out of it. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome, dude. So a couple last questions for you, but
Yeah.
before we jump into those, if we have any listeners or anybody watching this interview that want to reach out, they have questions. We have a very large listener base that's here in Arizona. So maybe they want to get more information about joining your team, your great organization. What's the best place for people to learn more about you and or get a hold of you from?
You can always email me. My email address is alan@allencarerealtygroup.com. On Facebook, it's Alan Kushmakov. You can PM me. You know, can I give my cell phone number?
Yeah.
Or, text me if you want to, or call me 623-261-1866.
Awesome. Love it, dude. So let's say something happens, man. You financially get wiped out, right?
Mhm.
Like you're starting from scratch. You got, let's say, $300 left to your name, but your health's good, family's good, all that's good. And you retain all the knowledge that you've learned over all years of all the entrepreneur ventures that you've been through. What's the first few things you'd immediately go out there and do with little to no money to start rebuilding this massive business that you built?
In real estate.
Dude, it can be anything.
All right. So let's say I would take real estate. I think the first thing I would do is just what I did 3 years ago. You know, now at that time I had Red X, I had Mojo, right? This time around I'll just have Vulcan 7.
Yeah.
Right? It's $299 a month. You know, so that's $300 right there. And then I would call the listing agents in my office and do 4 or 5 open houses a week.
Yep.
That's it.
Simplistic,
I mean,
but it works.
This business is simple. I mean, it's not easy, but it's simple. I mean, if you do those 2 things, you can do 25, 30 deals a year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like people just want to overcomplicate it because they don't want to do the simple shit that works.
So,
you know, it's not fun picking up the phone and getting yelled at by expireds, but it works. You know,
it works. It works. Same goes with open houses. Yeah, they work.
How do you, because one thing I find a lot of agents struggle with is call reluctance, and a lot of it's just fear of rejection and fear of different things. I mean, how do you help your agents kind of overcome that fear?
Well, again, first and foremost, I think you should lead by example. It's one thing to sit there and say, well, you got to call for 4 hours or 5 hours, whatever it is, if you've never done it before. I've done it and I still continue doing it. So that's one thing. But ultimately, look, you cannot take this stuff personally. You're going to have, peaks and valleys in that. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why people sign up on our website. They're expecting a phone call. They're entering their phone number, and there's nothing wrong with calling them, introducing yourself and asking them if they are interested in our help. And not every one of them is going to be receptive, but you're going to have some that will, and again, it's all about the numbers game at the end of the day. Not every single one of them is going to be ready to buy or ready to sell. But if we reach enough people and get some people to say yes, I mean, that's all you want. You don't want to be betting 1,000. You cannot bet 1,000. As long as you're betting a few percentage points, I think you're going to be in good shape. Yep.
Love it. So what's, I know it's probably a tough question, but what's kind of your vision right now of where you want to take this thing?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. So this year we're doing most likely between 150 to 160 transactions. That's our goal for this year. About $40 to $43 million in volume. Next year we want to double that. That's the plan. My 5-year goal is to help 1,000 families, whether it's going to be here in the Valley
between now and 5 years, or in 1 year.
In 5 years, in the next 5 years, I want to help 1,000 families, 1,000 transactions, 4 or 5 satellite offices, and maybe even own 1 or 2 other businesses.
Yeah,
maybe kind of taking on your footsteps. We'll see.
Oh man, you're crushing it, dude. I mean, what you're doing is impressive, and you're absolutely kicking my ass. From where I was at when I was at your point, dude. So you're doing massive things, dude. So just to I ask every guest this when we end the show. This podcast, dude, was created in this industry, as in a lot of businesses. there's a lot of just fluff, a lot of smoke and mirrors. A lot of the information that we're given is from people that have never even done it. And you see some of these top agents, top coaches in our industry, whatever that is, never even grown their own real estate business. So I'm like, instead of bitching, moaning, and whining about it, I'm going to go out there and create a platform where we interview the doers, guys like you that are going out there in the trenches, creating massive, massive businesses and delivering that to deliver tactical information, but also inspiration, motivation to our listeners so they can go out there and hopefully duplicate the same. So with that being said, man, any last words of inspiration or any last words that you'd like to leave our listener base with so they can go out there and again create that life that they know that they want to truly create?
Well, listen, first of all, I appreciate a lot what you're doing and what you're contributing to our industry. I think it's huge, to be honest with you. What you're offering, and it's free, by the way, is very important to a lot of listeners out there, whether they're in real estate or any other industry. I think that's big, right? But I think that, look, I mean, you're going to have peaks and you're going to have valleys. You're going to have challenges. In any business, that's going to be the case. But I think the first thing is don't overanalyze. Don't expect that it's going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Like with the presentation, listing presentation or a buyer presentation, it's never going to be really perfect. Scripts, it's never going to be perfect. Just do it and do it every single day. That's it. Like a Nike slogan, right? Just do it, or just do the work, right? Just do the work every single day. Make the best out of it. Yeah. That's it. It's never going to be an ideal. It's just one of those things that you just gotta put your blinders on and do it every single day. That's it.
Love it. Powerful words. All right, you guys, I know we end every podcast with this, but information without implementation is the start of delusion. Information is not power. It's taking that information, implementing that into our worlds that creates power in our lives, right? So you guys just heard from an absolute badass, one of actually the top realtors in the country that's been able to build a massive, massive business within in just a matter of a few years that shared a ton of great info with you guys today. So make sure that you take something that Alan shared with you today, implement in your business, implement in your lives so you can go out there and create that life that you know you want and you deserve. And Alan, it's been a massive honor, man. I commend you for your success, dude. It's awesome watching you. Honored to be at the same brokerage now together.
That's right.
To learn, grow, and keep challenging each other, man. And appreciate you taking time. You're busy to be here, man. It's a true honor.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
All right, you got it, my friend. All right, you guys, we will see you next time.